Welcome to Level Table Live, Level Legal Services live stream that dishes up breaking news, hot tips, and personal stories. I'm Joey Seeber, CEO of Level Legal, and as usual, I'm co-hosting with our Director of Client Solutions, Bonner. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Joey. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it, too. Good to be back with you. Thanks for taking the reins last month.
Absolutely. Good time.
Conversation with David Freedom. We're excited that you're here joining us for EDRM Story Hour, past, present, and future of the big idea of discovery. By the end of our time, we'll cover improbable acquisition of EDRM in 2019, the organization's latest grassroots project, how AI makes the human side of technology even more crucial for law firms and law departments. This month's special guests are EDRM stewards Mary Mack and Kaylee Walstad. Welcome to the show, Mary and Kaylee.
We are so excited and honored to be here with our newest EDRM trusted partner, Level Legal. Mary and I like to say, you're one of our industry's best kept secrets, and we cannot wait to talk about all things eDiscovery today.
Great.
Right, Mary?
Absolutely. We are thrilled to be here with you.
Well, we're honored that you are here with us, and let's just dig right in.
Real quick, before we get going, a couple housekeeping items. So we're recording this live stream, and we intend to share the video in the future. So if you don't want to appear, you can go ahead and drop. The video will be available for reference later. Also, we like interaction, so please put your questions in the comments section, and we'll address them through the show here. And if we run out, we'll follow up after it ends.
Perfect. Thanks, Daniel. Mary and Kaylee, the invitation to leave does not include you. So please stay with us for the hour.
Okay, for sure.
Good. Well, let's get started. Before starting the EDRM Story Hour, let's level set on what the EDRM is. First of all, I know that most of you joining us know that it stands for Electronic Data Reference Model. The organization, since 2005, has delivered leadership, standards, tools, and test data sets to strengthen best eDiscovery practices throughout the world. EDRM has an international presence in 145 countries spanning 6 continents. So let's get to know our guest, Mary. Mary is the CEO and Chief Legal Technologist for EDRM. She literally wrote the first book in the field, A Process of Illumination, the practical guide to electronic discovery. Mary has spoken around the world at various venues, including the Tokyo Summit, and I have to read these because there are so many, Mary. Relativity Fest London and Chicago, Legal Tech in New York City, the New York State Bar International Law Committee, Gartner Symposium, the American Bar Association, the National Law Committee, and others. Before coming to EDRM in 2019, she was the executive director of the Association of eDiscovery Specialists, ASEDS, and technology counsel for the International Enterprise Software Company, Xylem, as well as the eDiscovery Cloud company, FIO, or FIOS. Most interesting LinkedIn profile of Mary's is in the month we're coming to EDRM daily. She called herself the International Woman of History. So I love that, and we'll want to hear more about it.
That's awesome. And I'll introduce Kaylee here. So also called herself an International Woman of Mystery in the month before coming to the EDRM. Other titles on LinkedIn: Connector of People, Community Evangelist, Makes Things Happen, Community Builder. She had senior positions primarily in sales and account management. Like Mary, also has a long track record in eDiscovery, coming from ASEDS and Xylab. Worked for women in eDiscovery and at Rico and Icon Office Solutions. So as we develop content for the live stream, we're struck by how many great stories Mary and Kaylee have.
So we're here to hear those stories. So let me start with you, Mary. How did you come to eDiscovery?
My long and winding road, just like everybody else has got a long and winding road. Well, when I was in law school, it was a time when lawyers would not touch typewriters or keyboards because they thought they were typewriters, and they
Right.
even want to use the word processor until the daisy wheel would actually put an imprint, and you could rub your hand over the paper and feel like as if somebody typed it. And it was during an era, just like this week, we're wondering about a government shutdown. This was at a time when the government was pulling back student aid. And so I was short about $2,000 for my studies at law school. So they offered me work study working on the placement office computer, which was in Fortran with some punch cards. Yep. And that's how we did scheduling of interviews. If you can imagine the stress of people trying to get their interviews with like this weird scheduling program. So I did that during law school, and I felt that if I went into the law library, as my classmates did, and did the traditional law thing, I would never go back to computers. And this is when the microcomputer was just introduced, and I could see the change it was going to make. And I said, all right, I'm going into computers, and when the law catches up, I'll do that. That'll be about 10 years in my head.
Right.
It was 20. And so 20 years later, I was just coming off a contract with HealthNet in Southern California, and I was talking to Disney Interactive about doing something with them in interactive voice response. Mm-hmm. And I saw something that said they were looking for someone who could do computer evidence at FIOS, an emerging company in Portland. And so I interviewed there, and that's how I ended up in eDiscovery. I built their collection and forensics practice because they felt they had all the law stuff covered, but they just didn't know how to get the data. So that was my.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. I think you and I probably entered the profession at about the same time. When I went to work at my first law firm, the managing partner said there are 3 things that should be on no lawyer's desk. One is a typewriter.
Mm-hmm.
The second is a tape dispenser, and the other is a stapler. So,
wow.
Of course, we had to wear white shirts, and if we left our office, put our coats on. That was a bit of a different era, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, if you touched that keyboard, they would shame you because you were a man touching a keyboard. Yeah, a man in a suit. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Mary. So, Kaylee, how did you go from selling high-resolution printers to your storied career in eDiscovery?
I had a really interesting start, similarly with computers and technology. I was always fascinated by it. In the late 80s, one of my friends said this startup company, LaserMaster, has this high-tech card for HP printers that can make the resolution really high, and they're looking for somebody like you. So I went and interviewed, and it was so much fun to help build that company, build out the technology. They went on to do digital, the big, large format printers. They sent me all over the world. I was, out of all the employees, I think there was like 100 men and 2 women, and I got sent because the 2 do different events, trade shows, handle all their major clients, because they taught me how to set up the digital large format printer, and then I could actually do demos and print it. And everybody back then, late 80s, early 90s, was like, oh my gosh, that's miraculous. A woman can do that. And I had so much fun. So I went from there, and I had 2 kids, and I didn't want to travel, 2 young children. Didn't want to travel like that anymore. And so I got hired at then Icon, and that was such a great job, an opportunity for me. Truly, they Icon, when I started there, it was the biggest printer, copier, that kind of a dealership in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. that was the year that Icon went and bought up all the big copiers and merged in different cities, the two shops together. So at that time, they bought the company I was with and another huge company, merged it together and with no blueprint. So it would go great if you had good leadership who planned properly, and it went terribly in other parts of the country where there was just no blueprint. It made the news. It was the largest merger at the time of two companies in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And so I got to run one of their largest divisions. And it was a master class from our leadership. We spent a year going through DISC training and understanding people's personalities and why we were different and how, we needed to talk to this person in that way. Building together with this merged company, value statements and mission statements that the leadership team created together. It was a masterclass. I learned so much. And from there, I took some time off to raise my kids. And in 2000, I think it was 10, I wanted to go back to work. And so it was at a time when the job market was not great, but a lot of my Icon friends, now Rico, were like, come back here. We've got this opening in legal services. And my sister is a senior litigation paralegal. And she was like, do it. I'll teach you what you need to know. And so I took it, and it was really nice. Rico really invested in their employees. And at the time, David Greedham was my boss's boss.
Mm-hmm.
And he came into town and he was like, Kaylee, you sell the forensic services, his Remlocks device, which is brilliant. I'm still a huge fan of, because he who has the data wins. And that was sincerely very true. And so I got all kinds of training. I got my certified eDiscovery specialist certification. And then I got recruited by a global eDiscovery platform called Zylab, based out of Amsterdam. And I was encouraged by the leadership at Rico at the time to take that job and fly like the wind. And so that's where I met Mary, the queen of eDiscovery.
All right.
And we just had an absolute blast. I dragged Mary all over the country for different presentations. I was a regional director for Women in eDiscovery and the president of the Twin Cities Women in eDiscovery chapter. And so Mary came out very kindly in the winter. People were just thrilled.
In Minneapolis, man, there is nothing like
it. Makes you feel alive when it's 30 below, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Or make you wish you weren't. But anyway, and
that's
from there,
that's how you got into eDiscovery. So through what I find interesting about your two stories is it's representative of the industry, right? And that is that the two paths are through legal or through documents, oftentimes hard copy documents, and then data into what is a combination of the two, the data and the documents. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Fascinating stories. Appreciate you sharing both of those, and congrats on the success also. So let's fast forward to 2019. I hear the EDRM journey is a real Cinderella story. So why is that?
Miss Mack?
Well, as Kaylee was saying before, we met at Zylab and then worked together at ACEDS. And after our job was complete at ACEDS and there was no more for us, we decided to step out. And that's when we printed the business cards that said International Women of Mystery, put it on the LinkedIn, and we didn't know what the heck we were going to do next, but we knew we were going to do something. And Kaylee kept saying, there's something out there. We just don't see it yet. And then the yet came with a phone call that said that Duke University that had acquired the EDRM was looking for a new steward for it, and would we consider purchasing it? Kaylee and I were on the phone, and we were both like, "What? You can purchase the EDRM? That's a thing?" We had no idea, and they made it so easy for us, and provided such support and guidance, and we were able to do that. And we did a few things as soon as we acquired, didn't we, Kaylee?
We did, and you're missing the timeline. We stepped away. It was 2 weeks, and Legal Tech News and several others did an article, and we really were International Women of Mystery, because we didn't, like Mary said, we didn't know what the heck we were going to do.
I remember reading the article.
Yeah, so 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
That Duke University reached out, and
See,
then it was
playing the whole way along.
Yeah. Yep. It went quick, and that's our Cinderella story.
Yep.
That's amazing. Well, as a way to get into what the EDRM does, what would the world look like for legal professionals if the EDRM didn't exist? I think that's an interesting way to kind of think about the question.
Well, from my perspective, it would be what it was pre-EDRM, which was legal people on one side of the table, technical people on the other side of the table, and anybody else sort of in between, and everybody would talk past each other, and they would use the same vocabulary words to mean different things. So, for example, custodian means, okay, yeah, the janitor, but it also means the custodian of records, or it could mean custodian in the IT security sense. So, like, just to level set and get a nice a vocabulary, as well as it's like a workflow. It's not a prescribed workflow. It's an iterative workflow, but the basic building blocks of the things that we always do inside an eDiscovery request and review and production, to be able to have that in a simple one-page form gave us the language to communicate. And I think we would be the Tower of Babel.
That's pretty good, because what I find it useful for is when I'm talking to people who know nothing about the law or documents or eDiscovery, to try to give a framework for what I do and what we do. I'm always referencing the EDRM by name and then going through the various steps. So it does provide a common language for all of us. That's quite valuable. So I'm imagining then that with all that you do and how useful the EDRM is, that you've got an army of people working there with you doing all this work. Is that right?
An army of people. I love it. We actually do.
We do. Yeah.
We have a huge volunteer community, just massive, that really, they step up everything. All of our project work, all of that it's organic, it's championed, it's brought to Mary and I and Dave Cohen, our chair of our project trustees, as ideas for projects that help provide solutions to today's challenges. And there are plenty today.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all aware of the important work you're doing, and a lot of the projects in the works are very exciting. One thing we hear a lot about is the EDRM 2.0. So how did that get started, and what's next?
Well, the EDRM 2.0 got started because the EDRM has been around for, since 2005, and technology has evolved and our practices evolved. Mm-hmm. And so as people would do what Joey was talking about, is like, how do we describe where we are inside of this? They would say, we don't quite fit it anymore. We've got an advancement here that maybe we can just tweak the EDRM model to include something that we've advanced, or they take something out of order, what's displayed, and they would prefer to see the order changed of things. So people started asking, and then generative AI came on the scene, and it was pretty clear that was going to be a radical reimagining of how we do our work. And so we chartered the 2.0 project to ask that question: what, if anything, we should change, not to change it for the sake of change in and of itself. And the last change we made was to incorporate the new IGRM diagram that did have a substantive change, in the sense that it moved the segments into an equal setting, so that legal didn't have the biggest part of the pie and IT the smallest part of the pie when you sat down to discuss. So that, I call that a substantive change for good. That's what we're going to do with the EDRM 2.0, is we're going to look at it and see what changes need to be made, if any. Yeah.
What is the timeline for that, Mary?
Probably about a year long.
Okay.
Should there be changes made, we'd want to give people enough time to have public comment. We know, like your marketing department probably depends on it for the decks that you create, and so we don't want to surprise anybody with anything, and give it enough timeline for people to be comfortable with it.
All right, I'm going to have to memorize that additional section for my cocktail conversations. I'm used to the old one. Don't change it too much.
Yeah, see that? Yeah, you'll have to change your tattoo.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, in addition to EDRM 2.0, there's an EDRM project, as I understand, for electronically stored information, ESI protocols. What prompted that one, and what do we look forward to there?
The ESI protocols, now with so much electronic data, right? It's all electronic data. The courts are requiring ESI protocols. So right now, there's a lot of back and forth and fighting over the protocol between the two parties. And there's not really a standard protocol where plaintiffs and defendants could find a way to agree on most. So they only had a little bit that would need to be, decided on or agreed upon. And that saves a ton of time and money for everyone.
You mentioned plaintiffs and defendants. I think one of the things you guys say is that you've got both sides of the V involved in your efforts. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, we had a project, the privilege log project, protocol. Yes, and when it got to consensus, it was realized that there wasn't significant plaintiff input into it. And so the team reconstituted themselves, opened up again, and made a concerted effort to involve the plaintiff bar and the requesting parties to come to the table and to create something that would be acceptable by both sides. And that's a test. That particular project, Kristen Traylor was the trustee on that, and that's a high octave of consensus to get opposing parties to come to an agreement. And so that's what that one was about. Yeah,
that's good. That's a great idea.
I can tell you from firsthand experience, just working with our clients, wonderful attorneys, but this is a gap, right? So standardizing and negotiating the important document handling considerations and production specs, and making things in an adversarial process somewhat equitable and predictable. So it's amazing work. We're glad to see the developments here for sure.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a legal services podcast without bringing up AI, right? So we're aware there's an EDRM project focused on AI. Who's the champion there, and what's next?
We're really excited about the generative AI project. It is being led by the illustrious Jerry Bowie out of FTI. And what they're looking to do for what we would call version 1 is to create a set of guidelines for lawyers, legal professionals, anybody really, to help them incorporate it and know some of the high level pitfalls, things to look for, and ways to utilize it. What am I missing, Mary?
Well, that it's one of our most popular new projects, I think.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, everybody wants to learn about it, and everybody wants to help put some guidelines down, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm sure there's no shortage of people who want to be involved.
Oh yeah.
Well, as we think about AI trends in legal, I was listening to a podcast just recently, and it was Scott Galloway's podcast, and he had a guest, Mo Gaudet, who has been involved with Google AI projects, and they were discussing challenges and opportunities with generative AI in particular. And one of the observations that Mo Gaudet, who's written a book about all of this, or several, one of the observations he made was he believed that social and human skills are going to be even more important, even more elevated as technology improves, particularly generative AI. Wondered your thoughts about that.
Well, I'm lockstep with you. That's absolutely truth. I was reading an article put out by the Harvard Business Review. They did 7 years of research on the emotional implications of AI to humans. And they started out with a really cool, like a real world example of how Betty Crocker's General Mills came out with a cake mix in the 50s with dried eggs, and all you had to do was add water. And they thought this was just going to revolutionize everything. And what actually happened was it was too easy. People felt like they were cheating, and they didn't have skyrocketing sales. No, but that's exactly right. So they made it so people had to crack an egg. Boom. We know and love our cake mixes today. But what I found interesting was what information people felt good about getting from AI and what they didn't feel good about receiving. And so good news, Joey, your resume has been selected and you're now going to be the chairman of the board, said AI.
Well, there's obviously a mistake there.
Yeah. And what they found was the group that was told by AI that they were selected by AI didn't feel good about it and gave the company low scores. The group that was told by the human, congratulations, Joey, felt really good about it and gave the company high scores.
Right.
And it also found was if AI gave bad news or a person gave bad news, it didn't matter. So I chalked that up to let's use AI for all our bad news.
Oh, you got it. What do you call those sandwiches?
That's right.
That's
so isn't all this good for level legal, Joey and Daniel?
Yeah, absolutely. So paradoxically, as legal tech becomes more advanced, the human behind the tech becomes that much more important. And here at Level Legal, our focus is on making legal human. And this is a big part of it. We embrace technology, we innovate, but we've got to keep it in mind we're humans serving humans. And so customer service at some point and the client-focused approach becomes a hedge against recession sometimes.
It's true. So we spotted an interesting breaking news article yesterday by the brilliant Cassandra Coyer at Legal Tech News called Ka-Ching! What's Behind Legal Tech Providers' Spike in Prices?
Yeah.
The article cites how clients are being told that as their contracts are up or they have a new case, that prices have gone way up. And this is being driven by PE and VC pressure to end the year well. And What is Level Legal thinking about something like this?
Well, it's both sad for the end clients, for the clients and the customers, um, and it also happens to be a great opportunity for us. You know, at Level Legal, we'll be celebrating our 15th anniversary this January. And
Wow.
one of the things that we're proud of is that we've always been independent. We've never had outside funding from venture capital or private equity. We've grown largely by referral. Those people who've had good experiences have recommended us to their clients or to their colleagues. And we try to remember that at the beginning, at the end of every day, every engagement, we're working for a company, Level Legal, and we're working with a law firm, and oftentimes that law firm is working with the end client. Those are all different organizations, but we're not companies, firms, or organizations. We're people. We're people helping people with a problem that they have. And our experience has been when people are looking too closely or only looking at a spreadsheet to see if something makes sense, then we lose that human touch, that human interaction. We forget that what's important is the people who are involved. And so you can't be driven by the same motivation that private equity is driven by. You have to be able to take a long-term view, longer than a month or a quarter, but it's an investment in a relationship when it's with a client or a customer, not just this project and making sure that you know all of the numbers necessarily add up. Sometimes you have to work together for it to make sense, and we're able to invest in the long term. So I think the article was quite interesting. It's not surprising because we are hearing this more and more volunteered by our clients and by our prospects, and that is the challenges with industry consolidation, mergers, acquisitions. I can't talk to the person I'm accustomed to talking to, and it seems like people are just driven by the dollar rather than by service. So it plays well for us. So it's sad for people in the industry.
Yeah, I think that sometimes investors, when they're looking at the spreadsheets and things, that they forget. We know they forget that the employees are people. Because we see that in the layoffs, but the clients are people too, and the clients have relationships with the people that are attached to the organization that's serving them. What's really surprising to me is that we've gone through over 20 years of totally plummeting prices. Our unit prices have gotten so low. Even 7-8 years ago, we were talking about commoditization of the pricing. And with that, we saw a lot of layoffs of customer service professionals, the people who would take care of the clients. And so it makes sense to me that prices are being raised again, but I wonder where that raise will go. Will it go into serving the client? I do wonder that.
Well, I think if it increased, if service levels increased, that would be one thing. People might be fine with it, or certainly take it better. But that hasn't been what we've experienced recently, at least from what we're hearing.
Yeah, they pretty much people expect the white glove service regardless of commodity pricing. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and in fact, customer service is behind your acquisition of our former trusted partner, PC Forensics and David Greedham. Tell us a little bit more about that. We are very excited, and I know he is.
Yeah.
We are as well. It's such a wonderful development for the company. On a human level, there's nobody better than David. He's a true industry leader, both as an expert and an innovator, right? So he helped develop some of the first defensibly sound and admissible remote collection tools, testifying expert, and a great practitioner that understands the bedside manner.
Yes.
Many times it's critical as you're meeting somebody, another human, talking about collecting their sensitive data, sort of at the tip of the spear of all of our work. And so we're thrilled to have him as part of our company with his pedigree and his industry expertise. But more than that, the cultural fit, the alignment between his values, our values as a company, and what it looks like in practice to serve clients first, thinking about their professional success and the outcomes they need. So it's an amazing development for us as a company. As we talk about the EDRM, we're now full service with the addition of David and his expertise and resources.
That's right. It's been a goal of ours to move to the left, if you will, in the EDRM model. That's always the way that we've talked about it, and there's no better addition to be the tip of that spear on the collection of the data than David Freedom. You mentioned him, as colleague 20 years ago, and he has patents to his name and has been in our industry for a long time. So can't think of a better addition, and we're excited about it.
I'll say one other thing about David that's remarkable. So I have the good fortune of speaking to most of our clients and prospects about perspective matters and current work streams. And when you get into the discussion about forensics and data collection, there's one of two ways that can go. You can be speaking at a high level, maybe over some individuals' heads. You could be insensitive to the personal nature of the data collection events. But when David jumps on the phone with clients, you see their blood pressure go down. You see their recognition of the key steps and understanding the process really stabilize. And there's peace of mind. You can see it on people's faces. You can hear it in their voices. And so it's just a wonderful testament to doing things the right way, thinking about people first, and then moving forward with the important work at hand.
Yeah, that's good.
He definitely does that. We consider him a legend status for David Greedham.
Yeah,
100%.
There is nobody better to take with you to help formulate a plan for a client. He's all about doing the right thing. And we've known him for a very long time. And that's one of the things we love best.
And he's a business, he's an executive advisor to us, as we went through our journey. He was instrumental in helping us manage the whoo of it all.
Yeah.
You remember, he's like, the truck is at the top of the incline. It's not going down yet.
Yep.
Hilarious.
The brake is
David belongs on the EDRM Mount Rushmore along with the two of you.
Oh,
absolutely.
That's great. By the way, Mary, I think we have our hashtag captured for today. That is, clients are human too. I think that was.
Whoa! All right.
You the one that said it. Right?
yeah.
Wait till I tell my grandson I made a meme. He's going to be so proud.
That's right. Listen, I understand that you guys at EDRM are also doing some good things, running a community support call for legal professionals. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it got started?
Sure. Yeah, we just had our 189th support call. We have them every week.
Wow.
We started at the beginning of the pandemic because Kaylee and I felt that the community would need a place to gather and talk. And there at that time, there wasn't a lot of information about the pandemic. There was a lot of misinformation. And so and then we started to, we thought it would be more or less like a health support for our community that has to travel and works hard hours and, has families that undoubtedly we would see some people that would need some assistance. And so we thought, how could we do this at scale? Because you can, and so we put together the support call. And with the idea also that it would not be like a hub and spoke where everybody comes into Kaylee and myself, that it would become a mesh, like in routers, a mesh router where everybody would self-select, of course, would talk and support each other. And that is exactly what it's become. Kaylee, we have what we would call regulars or the pillars of our support call, because people come to give support in addition to get support. And so we are blessed with community members who are so generous during this disruptive time when we saw so many layoffs. People are looking out for their colleagues' next opportunity, encouraging them to see themselves as the professional that they are, not the person who's been who's 10 years of over the top work just thrown out on the trash heap, it takes a long time to train somebody, not only in the technical and the legal aspects of what we do, but the emotional, the human aspects of what we do, the stress that we're all under that we must manage with extreme grace, and how we protect our clients and all of that. And to lose those people just because, somebody with a pencil and an eraser decided that, we don't want to see that salary in our line anymore. So that's why we did it. And Kaylee, what am I missing on that?
Nothing. It was Mary who thought it was really important in March of 2020 when we saw our country shutting down and the world shutting down. And then people started losing their jobs right away, if you remember, in 2020. And so we had a lot of people that needed a network and help finding jobs. And it's been a difference maker in my life. We have this whole separate family. It's like a family of people that we know so well now, after 189 weeks, which Craig Ball is a pillar of the call. He's EDRM's general counsel. And he literally said, this is the only thing that I've ever done consistently every week at the same day, same time ever.
That's fun.
Yeah.
It strikes me that one of we talked about the human to human connection and the work that we do, and the tagline that we've adopted in the last year is making legal human. It strikes me that you guys have been doing that for quite a while. Using the forum, the EDRM, people that the network to interact with them during good times and hard times. And so, congratulations on making legal human.
Well,
we have to give a shout out to your fabulous Vinny Lou, who is at Relativity Fest. He's my former colleague, a fantastic friend of Mary's and mine. We're sad to miss him this year. So we'll raise a glass in your honor, Vinny.
Yeah.
Everybody go. Yep. Everybody go find Vinny.
Go find Vinny. Where's Waldo? Where's Vinny?
100%. Yeah. Another quote I pulled away: managing stress with extreme grace. And Vinny does that very well.
Mm-hmm.
No surprise, working on the important data services piece of the EDRM, processing, hosting, analytics. It comes with a lot of stress, a lot of urgency, a lot of education, and he does that better than most. So we're thrilled to have him here.
Yep, glad to have him. Let's see if we have any questions. If we have any questions from our audience, I don't see. Well, David Greenham is watching, so he's got a question for you. We may have alluded to it earlier, but you may want to expound if we haven't. You guys, complimenting you, truly moved the EDRM forward. So what is next for the International Women of History?
What a great question. And thanks for joining us today, the legendary David, who we call Sir Greenham.
Yes.
What's next for us? I think are the project work. It's real. We have a huge global community of project volunteers, and you heard some of the new ones. Generative AI, we're getting tapped a lot for education. And just the basics, because so many people are afraid to use it after there have been a few, shall we call them, missteps in the media. So I would say, look for that. But we're keeping on stepping. I mean, we have got just the most vibrant community that's excited to be able to come together, take off their vendor hats if they have one, or I'm defense, I'm plaintiff, and work together for the greater good. And we're loving it.
That's great. Well, I think you guys do a great job, and I think generative AI is going to provide opportunities for a long time for interaction and development.
100%. We've got another one up from Alexandria. So she notes your weekly message above the fold, being a lifesaver over the pandemic. Tell me a little bit about how that started and the purpose. Obviously, it's done tremendous things for the audience, but I'd love to learn a little bit more.
Well, that's our weekly newsletter. And Kaylee and I felt strongly that we had to mark how we were traveling through time. That we always talked about it's, we're in unprecedented times and we want to be back in precedented times. Gosh darn it. And so the world and national news, we start out with that, just like, all right, who's having like this extreme weather event? And we had a lot of COVID news, and especially in the beginning of the pandemic. You might see next up, everybody go get your RSV shot too. But then it was what's happening in legal tech that just things that maybe we didn't have time to to cover thoroughly, but just to at least give a link to people so that they could go and check that out. And then we also felt that there was a good way to keep everybody updated on what the projects were doing, what our trusted partners were doing with their webinars, the podcasts, and all that, and to make sure that everybody knew that if there was going to be an event, where it was and how they could register. And so that's how the words part came about. But Kaylee, you've been doing some things with Above the Fold graphically.
Well, I think you missed one major thing, which is probably what Alexandria, thank you for joining us today, by the way, in your kind words, was talking about, is the community letter, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the newsletter, but we write a weekly letter to the community with all that news and information, post that letter to the community up on our blog, and then send it out. You can subscribe to our newsletter at edrm.net. It's every Tuesday. And yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. One thing I've always noted, and I love getting your updates and newsletters. Y'all just get stuff done.
Yes, we do.
It's amazing.
We don't do it by ourselves, but we do run fast and hard. Yes, we do.
That's fantastic. With the army of employees that you have. Okay. Well, this has been a fantastic hour. I appreciate, again, you all joining us and having this great conversation. Hopefully there are a few more people in the world who understand more about what the EDRM does and as an organization, and learn about the two of you and your contributions. And we look forward to working with you in any way that we can in the future. So thanks for joining us.
We're beyond honored. Thank you for having us on as your guests. And keep in mind, Level Legal, white glove service, the best kept secret. We love working with these guys.
We do indeed. Our trusted partners make everything at EDRM possible.
Yes.
And we couldn't be more grateful for that support, as well as inviting us on your show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's been an honor.
I can't think of better folks to have. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So thank you all for joining us this week for EDRM Story Hour, past and present, and future, the big ideas in eDiscovery. Thank you, Mary, again, and Kaylee, again, for your joining us. If we didn't get to your question here, if there were any questions, we'll certainly answer offline. And for more information, please visit our website, levellegal.com. Please join us also for the October Level Table Live. Our guest will be Aaron Bath. Aaron is the National Director of Litigation Management at Balfour Beatty. So tune in at noon Central on Tuesday, October 24th. Keep an eye out for registration, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. Daniel, thank you for another good session.
Appreciate it. It's always fun. Love the guests, love the stories, and all that we learned.
So thank you for joining us again, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.